We thank you for joining us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Christina Pius. We thank God for the gift of life. We thank God for a new week. We hope you're doing well. On this episode of Tax Matters, we're going to share with you stories around sensitization and enforcement. At the enlarged management meeting of the FRS held in Ibadan, Oyo State on the 25th of September 2014, the acting executive chairman, Alhaji Kabiru Mashi, read the Riot Act to officials of the service, asking them to go out onto the field and conduct enforcement exercises on tax defaulters.
I have directed that all offices going forward on a monthly basis should enforce at least 3 cases, especially the offices with outstanding tax arrears. Enforcement can take different forms. One, by going to the taxpayer to remind him that he's there to file returns as expected by him, by law, and give him time to do so. If he fails to do so, we can assess and drag him to tax appeal tribunal. That is enforcement. If a taxpayer has tax liability and he has not paid, we can take him to tax appeal tribunal. If the judgment is given, we can write to the banks for substitution, appointing the bank as a collecting agent to collect the taxes outstanding against that taxpayer from his account and remit to us, or suspend the operation of the account until when the taxpayer comes to our office, we enter agreement, okay, how do you pay this money? And we write back to the bank and say, okay, the taxpayer has come, we have agreed, please, we are lifting the substitution. That is enforcement. We can distrain the property of the taxpayer. In fact, sell it, recover our tax money and give him the balance. That is enforcement. We can seal off the business premises if the taxpayer is not cooperating. After getting judgment from this, I can sign a warrant to go and search and seize some of the documents in a taxpayer's office. That is enforcement. So there are various types of enforcements. We have sensitized enough. If you notice, for the last 2 years, we have been sensitizing in newspapers, radio, television, on why taxpayers should pay tax.
Pronto, various offices sprung into action. While some offices have continued to organize sensitization workshops to properly sensitize their taxpayers on their duties and obligations, many have paid enforcement visits to erring taxpayers. In the last 1 month, 2 major events have rocked the FRS: sensitization and enforcement. The Port Harcourt and Rumukoroshi micro and small taxpayers offices had a combined workshop on Tuesday, 4th of November 2014 in Port Harcourt. While the Government Business Tax Department had the Southeast Regional Sensitization Workshop on the 12th of November 2014 in Owerri, Imo State, the Medium Tax Office Port Harcourt also had the Sensitization Workshop on the 13th of November in Port Harcourt, all geared towards making the taxpayer better tax-paying citizens. At the different events, FRS officials had this to say about enforcement.
You must have been reading on the pages of newspaper and television that enforcement is being conducted and being carried out. The enforcement is not limited to corporate organizations. It's also to MDAs. And I hope we'll seize this opportunity to do the needful, not waiting for embarrassment and enforcement to be conducted on your MDAs.
We are embarking on a lot of massive enforcement, because once people realize that if they don't do something, it has a consequence. The tendency is that more people will want to do the right thing. So we are trying to step up our enforcement activities to let them know that, okay, this is a statutory matter. They don't have a choice. It is compulsory that they must file their returns every year and do it at the right time. And that if they don't do it, we can as well, they can as well be waiting for FRS to come and compel them to do what the law says.
Tax is as sure as debt. Two sure things in the world, tax and debt. FIRS today is hammering so much on enforcement. But before we can effectively carry out that enforcement, it behoves that we have equipped you with the necessary tools and knowledge to enable you comply. Otherwise, you can look at us as being akin to that traffic warden hiding by the corner of the street to arrest innocent culprits. That we don't want to be, and that we don't want to be seen as.
You've heard it from the horse's mouth. Join us on this voyage as we take you to the various enforcement exercises embarked upon by the different offices of the FIRS in Lagos and Ibadan. This goes to show that the FIRS means business. On Wednesday, 29th of October 2014, the enforcement team from the Medium Tax Office, Lagos Mainland, visited 3 offices. The first company was a construction company in Surulere. They had not filed their report for the past 2 years. They made a commitment of 250,000 naira and a meeting was slated for the next day at the FIRS office. At the second company, only the receptionist was available. The management were not around. After discussions, contact of the enforcement team was collected by the young lady who promised to pass on the message to her MD as soon as possible. The last company was an advertising company in Ikeja. The acting MD was not aware of the tax issues. The accountant was called in and he confirmed that he had delays in filing due to internal business issues. A commitment was made in writing. While on Monday, 3rd of November 2014, the Land Tax Office Non-Oil Lagos Island visited a company around Ikeja. The enforcement team met the human resource manager, who took them to the other manager. They had not filed their returns and were owing tax liabilities of a large sum. They claimed they had paid some. After discussion with the enforcement team, they made a commitment in writing to come for a meeting to reconcile the tax liabilities of the company the next day at the FIRS office. The next week was a busy one, as different offices in Lagos went on enforcement drive. On Monday, 10th of November 2014, the City Hall Micro and Small Tax Offices visited a law firm representing one of the companies who had refused to file their returns since 2010. The lawyer representing the company was not around. Another lawyer from the firm met with the enforcement team. Both teams agreed to have a meeting with the lawyer representing the company at the FIRS office the next day. On Wednesday, 12th of November 2014, it was the turn of the Lagos Mainland East enforcement team. They enforced on 3 companies. At the first company, which was in Alausa, the accountant was very rude, violent, and uncooperative. He refused to discuss with the team, and he was taken away. At the second company, which is a subsidiary of a big supermarket located around Alausa, they had not been filing their returns. The vice president of the group was taken away when an agreement could not be reached at their office, and the management team did not have enough information. At the third company, which was a branding company, they had issues of non-filing of returns as well as non-remittance of tax deducted from their clients. The managing director was not in the office, but he rushed down when his employees called him. He made a commitment by signing a check of 2 million naira, and a letter was written to have further deliberations with the FIRS the next day at their office in order to resolve other issues. On that same day, the Medium Tax Office Lagos Mainland Agidingbi visited 2 companies. The first company was a factory owned by foreigners. They had not filed their returns and were owing taxes. They admitted that their account had issues due to their auditors. They refused to make any form of commitment or payment without their consultants. One of the managers was taken away. At the second company, the enforcement team met the account officer. They had not filed their returns and had also not remitted VAT deducted from their clients. A commitment was signed. On Thursday, 13th of November 2014, the Lagos Mainland East enforcement drive continued. While the Victoria Island, Ilupeju, Onigbogbo, Onikon, micro and small taxpayers' offices started their own enforcement drive. The Lagos Mainland East enforcement team visited 2 companies. The first company was a real estate company in Magodo. They already had an instrumental payment plan with the FIRS but had not been complying with the plan. A commitment was made in writing that the check for that month will be paid the next day. At the second company, which was an engineering company in K2, the manager was not around. The accountant could not provide necessary information or make any agreement on behalf of his company. He was taken away by the FIRS. While the Onigbogbo Micro and Small Taxpayer Office also visited two companies. At the first company, the management of the company were not sure of the figures. They had not filed their returns. They appealed for a meeting with the FIRS and their consultant in order to resolve the figures. A commitment was made in writing. At the second company, they had not registered nor filed returns with the FIRS since inception of business. The managing director was not in the office and he could not be reached on the phone. One of the officers of the company was taken away. That same day, the Victoria Island Micro and Small Taxpayers Office enforcement team visited three companies. At the first company, the finance officer was taken away because the MD was not around and the company had not filed its returns for the last 3 years. The finance officer could not make any commitment and he could not answer any of the questions concerning the tax liabilities. At the second company, which is a lodge, they had tax liabilities arising from non-remittance of VAT deducted from their customers. The FIRS discovered the non-remittance during their audit exercise. They made an initial payment but did not complete it. They made a commitment by signing a check and a letter promising to offset the tax liabilities before an agreed time. While at the third company, which is an offshore company into servicing, they were owing taxes arising from VAT and other taxes. A commitment was made and a check was signed by the officer available. The Onikon Micro and Small Taxpayers team also on the same day, Thursday, 13th of November 2014, enforced three companies. At the first company, they have a case in court with the FIRS due to outstanding tax liabilities, but they were not remitting to the FIRS VAT deducted from their clients during the course of business despite the court case. A commitment was made in writing. At the second company, a communication company which is a subsidiary of a bigger company, they have not been filing their returns and have been hiding under the name of the main company. After much discussion, a commitment was made in writing. At the third company, which is into internet and communication, they are owing VAT deducted and non-filing of returns. The company signed a check of 2 million naira and a letter of commitment to meet with the FIRS team. While in Ibadan, the regional coordinator and the enforcement team went on an enforcement drive. At the first company, which was an hotel in Ibadan, they were owing VAT deducted but not remitted, as well as non-filing of returns. One of the managers was taken away. The second company was a shop within a mall. The manager was not available, and the sales rep was not aware of the situation. He was taken away as well. At the third company, the accountant admitted that they had conflicting issues and their tax consultants were on it. After more discussion, a commitment was made in writing. At the fourth company, which is a factory, the managing director was not around, but he was called on the phone and he promised to go to the FIRS office the next day. The enforcement team left their contacts with the security man on ground.
Every day, my people they for work. Some they do office work. Some get it them own business. So all of them want good road, constant power for better life. Whether now office work, oh yeah, pay your tax. Whether now your own business, oh pay your tax. If you want a better life, oh pay your tax. Now your civic responsibility, pay your tax. Better soup, now money cook am. Oh yes. Nothing goes for nothing, my brother. If you want potable water, security and hospital for make life jolly.
That's right. Good roads, good hospitals, portable water, adequate security all come from taxpayers' money. Play your part in making Nigeria great. Everybody, small scale, big companies, entrepreneurs, do the right thing. Pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS.
Welcome back. You're still on to Tax Matters. In advocating for a better tax system and voluntary tax compliance, women and children are not left out. The Society for Women in Taxation Suite Lagos chapter held its second investiture of the Lagos State chapter chairperson and recognition and awards to pioneer and outstanding members of the tax profession. The ceremony took place on Friday, 7th of November 2014. Tax Matters spoke to the national chairperson of Suite and the new chairperson of the Lagos chapter on the role of Suite in taxation. When Suite was set up, what were the objectives?
Just like any other organization have a women's arm, we too decided that Society of Women should come to be because it is the female arm of a Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. So it serves as a rallying point for all the female members of the institute, and also serve as a way of making women to be responsive, making women to participate in policy decision, in policy setup. When it comes to tax issues, they are part of those tax policies. We also have it as a part of our objectives to educate our members. So we run seminars that build the capacity of our women, either in tax matters or outside tax related in other field. We also do tax education for non-members, maybe women and every other, just like I've already said all the time, for people. So those are the objective of Suite. Some other social objective is now in the area of empowerment, because if you want somebody to pay tax and the person has not eaten, he needs to do something. So we involve ourselves in empowering people. We involve ourselves in providing scholarship to people to get educated. When they get educated to a level, then they can now go and study taxation and then be expert in taxation.
What role is Suite playing in ensuring that there is awareness, tax compliance, not just amongst women, but also the general public?
Well, the role, if you are looking at tax awareness for the general public, I will say that is through the media like Tax Matters. And oftentimes when you ask questions like this and we respond and you air it, also you are also disseminating information via Suite to the public. So we do have media coverage, journalists coming from time to time to get information about certain aspects of tax, with a purpose of also providing similar one to the populace. I think that's an effective role we have played over the years. And I also want to say that when we have branches doing things like this, circulation of things here and there, is also another way of promoting taxes. For example, last month at Ibadan, we did an investiture like this for the new ESCO of Ibadan. But before them, they went on a street talk. They went around Ibadan, promoting tax, telling people about what taxation represents and all those. They walk through, they call it tax walk. So that's an information they are passing. Our people in Ilorin does the same thing. In fact, they have a regular television program on tax that they run as a way of also passing information to people. We have been playing our role in the area of information dissemination.
How do you intend to enlighten, to increase tax awareness?
I am totally committed to this because one thing I know changed my mind and redirected my career was a society like this while I was in secondary school. So, in building career, we intend to visit schools, post-secondary, high institution, and in fact, we are also looking at primary school so that we can catch them young for them to know why they must pay tax, for them to know the reason, for them to know what the revenue from taxation is meant for them to also know the right to demand for the usage of their revenue, which they have contributed as a way of tax. We, as women, society, we intend to promote the interests of women in tax profession. We intend to also create that bonding. We are not just professionals, and like you saw, you can see we are very one happy family. So these are some of the things we want to do. And again, to continue to contribute our quota to the government in promoting and suggesting of better ways to educate our citizens.
We all know what the oil price keep falling every day. Taxes, we're also trying to increase awareness. What are the ways in which we can effectively increase this awareness for people to pay tax?
Tax, we all know, is a compulsory levy by the government on our citizens. If we generate this revenue and people can see what this money is being used for, of course, they'll be willing to pay. The reason for wanting to evade tax will be substantially reduced. And what I can say to improve, more awareness needs to be created, and that is one of the things which we are going to be doing, to see and catch them young, that there should be a reason why they must pay tax. If all these things are put in place, our revenue generation in form of tax will definitely improve.
On Monday, 10th of November 2014, the Student Tax Advocacy Initiative STAL, an initiative of the FRS, held the Young Tax Advocate Awards 2014. The award ceremony was organized to appreciate outstanding students who have distinguished themselves as tax advocates in their various states. The awardees were chosen based on the project they carried out in their various schools and states for advocating for voluntary tax compliance. The event was graced by the acting executive chairman of the FRS, who was represented by the coordinating director in the office of the executive chairman, Alhaja QC Segusime. Also in attendance were the president of the CITN, Mr. Mark Anthony Dike, the chairman of Katsina State Board of Internal Revenue, STAR board members, and other distinguished guests.
Our third position winner, with a combined total of 74 points. Join me as I welcome Ifeoluwa Oyade. Tax business is amazing business. I am happy to inform you that we have a second prize winner. Ladies and gentlemen, with a combined total of 85 points, join me as I welcome no other than Chukwu Mary. She gets an award in recognition of our second position and also gets a HP laptop.
There was a tie for the first position. 2 students came first. Babawale Jami Popola from Akintola School of Technology, Ogbomoso, and Egbo Apio Sareme of Government Secondary School, Wuse, Abuja. One major highlight of the ceremony was the 8th position won by a 12-year-old student from Katsina State. He advocated for tax in his native language in Katsina State. What can we say? It is never too early to advocate for tax. Time flies when you are having fun. It is time for us to go. More of these stories will come to you in our subsequent episodes. Pay your tax promptly and avoid embarrassment. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.